Hi everyone, so today I'm going to be doing a back to basic tutorial or a little info video. So I'm going to be talking about glazing today. So first off I want to talk a bit about glaze in general, and then I want to talk about how I glaze my charms. So let's talk about glaze first. So this is the glaze I use. It is the Craft Mill polyurethane gloss glaze. This is not the packaging it comes in. I just distributed some of the product into a smaller little container so I could take it to uni with me, and I could leave the bigger bottle at home. Now I do have a review of this, or I used to. I deleted it now, but if you want me to do a review and redo that video, then let me know, because I'll be more than happy to do so. But this is definitely my favourite glaze that I've ever used, and I will leave a link to it in the description. So yeah, that's just the glaze that I use. Now to go over like why people glaze charms. So there are two main reasons I think that people glaze their charms, and one is for the aesthetic appeal. Obviously if you have shiny charms, some people like the way that looks more than maybe a matte charm. And two, for protection, to protect your charms. So glazing your charms can help protect from UV damage, it can protect from scratches, it can protect from loads of other things. So I'll just show you a couple of examples for that. So obviously for a charm like this, where all of the details are painted on with acrylic paint, the details would very easily scratch off. So this would obviously be glazed to protect the paint. And then for this, I glaze the top of my cupcakes that have micro marbles as decorations, because they are likely to, if not glazed, not all the time, but I have had problems where the micro marbles have pinged off my charms. So glazing it just gives it a layer that sets it down so that it won't come off the charm. So there's another reason. So another instance where glaze can really help to protect your charms are things like this, where I've used a lot of chalk pastels and I've coloured it to make it look like a cookie. And now this may wear off, it may rub off during the time of wearing it or using it or doing whatever you want to do with the charm. So making sure that you glaze this means that there is a layer over the top, which means that the chalk pastels are not like out in the open rubbing against clothes or anything like that. So that's another reason. So another reason that you may use glaze for a charm is to increase the colour. Now this sounds a little strange, but if you take a look at this puzzle piece charm right here, I used a ice quartz from Female Effect. Now this works on a lot of other colours. They usually have a translucent property in them, or some kind of pearl or glitter properties in them, but this is just ice quartz from Female, and as you can see it's a very pretty colour. However, the colour is very much enhanced when you glaze the piece. Now as you can see, it looks far more translucent, glittery, all that kind of thing. So I'll just show you that works for others as well. So this is also an ice quartz colour. This is rose quartz from Female Effect, and as you can see, this is the one that isn't glazed and this is the one that is glazed, and if I turn it, like, you can see the difference. This is still pretty and gorgeous and shiny, and I still love the way this looks, but it's much more sparkly and translucent when you glaze it. And a lot of people just find that glazing their charms looks more professional. I never used to glaze my charms, if I'm honest. I really didn't like glazing them, but now there are a lot of benefits for me to glaze my charms, so I do it a lot now. So that's just some of the reasons that you might want to glaze your charms. Now, like I said, for aesthetic appeal and stuff like that, you usually use a gloss varnish, but there are thousands and thousands of different types of varnishes. You've got matte, I know there's some satin ones, there's some gloss ones, high gloss, there's lots of different types of glaze as well. There's polyurethane, I think there's some water-based ones as well, so it's good to look around. Now, like I said, if you want me to do a review and sort of like an overview of glazes in general, then let me know and I will do that for you. So now we've had a quick discussion about the glaze, I'm going to quickly tell you about the paintbrushes that I like to use. Now I like to use synthetic paintbrushes that look like this. The fibres are plastic or of a synthetic material, they're not naturally found hairs. I just find that these leave a really nice finish on my charms, and they don't leave any streaky marks. However, if you are still getting streaky marks no matter what paintbrush you use, or if you only have a certain paintbrush on hand that leaves streaks when you glaze, you can dampen your paintbrush and then you can obviously glaze as you normally would, and I know that is a really quick tip and really does help with streak marks. So yeah, I just like using these. Obviously, you, depending on how big your charm is or what piece you're working on, you might need a bigger one or a smaller one. So yeah, these are just the paintbrushes that I like to use, and these aren't expensive, these are super cheap, and I just got them from my local craft store. So now on to how I glaze my charms. Now I am very lazy, and if I can help it I would try not to hang up my charms when they dry. So the way I do it is like this. So for glazing I like to do, it depends obviously what shape your charm is. This is a little bit hard because it's more 3D. However, when I glaze something like this it's very simple. But I do tend to work with the same like scheme for most of my charms. So I like to glaze the back first, which I've already done on this one. I think you can see that. And then, especially for these ones, obviously once I've glazed the back, I then glaze, I let that dry completely, usually just for a day. I then glaze the front and then I glaze the sides. But this is obviously a very structured piece, so it doesn't involve lots of 3D, if you know what I mean. So I will show you how I will do that in a second, but let me just talk about this one. So again, I like to do the back, especially as it is flat, and then it depends how I'm feeling. If I want to hold on to my charm like this with pliers and then glaze all of this and then leave it on its side, or leave it on its back, sorry, flat on its back. If you prefer hanging your charms, you can obviously do that, but I just prefer not having to hang them, just because I find it easier to keep them away from dust if they're sitting flat on a surface, and I can put like a Tupperware box or something over the top. If you would like to hang it, there are loads of different ways you can easily make yourself a little hanging thing. There are some, I used to use I got this laundry hanging system off eBay for really cheap, which I'll leave a link in the description down below for. And then I used to just take some untangled, or I used to bend some paper clips and then hook my charm on and then clip them to the laundry hanger. I know that sounds a little confusing, but I will link it in the description, and if you look at it you'll understand what I mean. But like I said, this is just the way I do it. I do the back, and then whatever charm it is, I do the front, and then I like to leave it flat on a surface so I can then cover it. However, if you are using a very 3D object, I still do like to hang my charms, just because it's very hard. Obviously, if you're doing maybe a chibi that has no flat surfaces, it's very hard to make sure that the glaze will not stick to the surface that you lay it on and things like that. So I'll just do a quick demonstration of how I would glaze both of the charms that I just showed you, and I hope this really helped you, so enjoy the video.